Director of Directorate Prosperity of the GRTD, and we have Roberto Fedeli, CEO and General Director of FIAT Research Center. So welcome, Peter, and welcome, Roberto. This section will be, let's say, dedicated to Commission industry relaxed discussion. And I would like to start from one simple statement from you. Horizon Europe is a program with a lot of ambitions and with a lot of expectations. And we know quite well that most of these expectations will never be achieved without a clear, strong commitment from industry in the game. Solutions is not just a problem of knowledge, is not just a problem of market, is a problem of create serious, robust, reliable solution for the future problems. We have a lot of problems, we need a lot of solutions, and this solution will never be achieved without a clear relations and collaboration between industry and Commission. So, according to your first statement, so start and let's say as a nice break to give your first statement about what you expect. We start from Commission, from Peter, from industry in the game, in the future game of Horizon Europe, and after that from Roberto, what industry will expect from Commission in order to be effective in achieving such solution, whatever will be the solution in this moment. Peter, the floor is yours. Thanks.
Thank you, Marco, and good afternoon to all of you. I wish us a lot of good connections, not only this afternoon, but also in the future. I owe you an explanation. Directorate Prosperity in our Research and Innovation Department has a background. We deal with industrial technologies, investments in industrial technologies. We have reoriented the entire Research and Innovation Department of the EU around sustainability. So we have a directorate for planet, for people, for prosperity. And our motto here is high tech with big heart. And I think that sets also the scene for what we wish and expect from industry and what we would like to offer and what we are offering to industry. So as a word of introduction, what are we talking about industry? Industria, in the Latin meaning, means purposeful, hard activity. And without industry, sine industria means no purpose, no solutions, Marco, as you just said in the introduction. In Europe, industry stands for 32 million jobs, 1 out in 5, and generates more than 2 jobs per job in the industry. So it's a big job generator also in other fields of the economy. And I think it's very important that we keep that in mind, and actually that the European integration process started with heavy industry, steel and coal, as an integrating factor. And when we look at areas in Europe across our beautiful European Union, where there is deindustrialization, these are the areas where hope is lost. And in that sense, industrial policy as integration policy. And that's an explanation for how we set the scene also with the research on investment, research investments from the European side. So before I come to the question how we can make Europe, European research more relevant, even more relevant for industry, let me explain why I think it is relevant for industry. There's a huge transformation going on in industry, not only in industry, but also in industry. We see the convergence of technologies. Digital is artificial intelligence. It's very present for everyone. But there's also the biologization of production. There is the meeting of the physical and the digital. And there is this huge transformation required by what we call the twin transition, the digital and the climate transition. And that is the overall objective of sustainability. And this commission has set the target of Europe being the first climate neutral continent by 2050. We just proposed very, very ambitious targets for the year 2030, 55% emission reductions compared to the 1990 levels. So that is quite a tall order to achieve. And that cannot be achieved without substantial investments in research and innovation. And there we do have a bit of an issue in Europe that we invest, the private side underinvests in research and innovation. And with our investments, public investments, we want to leverage, incentivize, trigger additional private investments. And for that, industry is highly relevant. It's a very welcome partner in our programs and actions as a solution provider and future investor. So how to make it more relevant? I think first we should make and put an end as much as possible to the myth that European research is very heavy. You need to invest a lot of time in writing very complex papers. And then you have to wait long for getting a positive funding decision. That's no longer the fact. We are quite fast and it's highly competitive. That is clear. Highly competitive. But once you, but that is also the charm of it, the advantage, because you know you're among the best. Second, it's about new markets. We invest in the long term, in the longer to long term scenarios. And with our projects, you get a whole kind of network which allows you to access markets in Europe, but also outside Europe afterwards with your solutions. And yeah, I see, Marco, I should perhaps already stop here, but perhaps one or two wishes why I think industry should engage and how it should engage. We are about to start a new program, Horizon Europe. And the way we have designed it, it's completely different from the past programs. We have made a draft strategic plan for the first 4 years of our priorities. And this has been co-created with member states, with European Parliament, but also with a lot of you and with the broader public. And that's quite a new ambition we have. And it has led to 4 key priorities. We call that the key strategic orientations for the first 4 years. And they are about open strategic autonomy. So having the technology leadership in key areas, be it digital, be it advanced manufacturing, be it materials. So technological leadership to achieve an open, because we want to cooperate with partners outside Europe, of course, but having the strategic autonomy. Second, it is about restoring the ecosystem and the biodiversity, which is suffering a lot, as we know. Third objective, key strategic orientation, is a fully circular, climate neutral, digitally led, sustainable economy. That's the overall climate target, and I think you discussed earlier today the Green Deal. And fourth, a resilient, inclusive, and democratic society. And that is also relevant for industry. I mentioned the challenges coming from deindustrialization. So this is quite a big offer we have for industry to engage, where European research is relevant, as we are needing an acceleration. We no longer have the luxury of time for research and innovation investment. We need an acceleration now in order to master these transitions. And there the expectations for industry are high, but you can count on us. We have set our targets. We have set a scene with Green Deal as overarching objective and a very ambitious program for the next years.
Thank you, Peter. A lot of elements on the floor already. So, Roberto, now is your turn. I would say, I don't want to synthesize what was from Peter, but in very short, he told you as industry representative, ideal representative, that you should be part of the game, and you had to be part of the game. So, in order to be part of the game, what is your expectation and what do you expect from them now?
Yeah, first of all, good afternoon to everybody also from my side. And I think that the key word that Peter used before is to accelerate. That's a very key word in our day-by-day life, let me say. But first of all, let me clarify that I'm not in comfort to represent all the kinds of industry in this kind of conversation. I just have experience on the manufacturing industry and especially on the automotive sector. So please consider that everything we get out from my voice is coming from my specific very vertical experience in automotive. And because of I'm an engineer, unfortunately, I apologize, but I will start giving you some numbers. That's normally an engineer has to do. So the market we are representing, we are speaking about is the market sold roughly 90 million cars in 2019, of which 25 million in China and 17 million both in the US and in Europe. In 2020, the 2020 forecast is to lose at least 20%, 20-25% of the volume due to the pandemic. Some other numbers, apologize for that. The automotive sector in Europe is responsible for a turnover about 1,280 billion euro, developed by 14.6 employees, that is the 6.7% of the entire workforce in Europe. These companies invest a total of about 70 billion per year in research and development and research and innovation. Let me go through the situation in Italy. In Italy, this sector involves roughly 15,000 companies with a revenue about 155 billion euro. That is for Italy, the 7.1% of the GDP. And this number corresponds to the 2% of the total of Italian companies, which 92% classify as SMEs. And that's very important because there are not only the OEMs, but that are also a lot of companies, small and medium companies that are working in this kind of field. So, as you know, since the last 5-7 years, we are living a quick evolution, or better, revolution of the products we can find in the market with integration of technologies never integrated on the product like a car since now. So this situation has caused a very huge inconsistencies between the skills owned by the companies and the needed one. The splitting of the system in a specific cluster of skills is not longer the same with respect to 10 years ago, something like that. 10 years ago, but even 5 years ago, the 75% of the engineers in a car company were coming from a mechanical or aerospace degree. Just less than 20% were electronics one. Very, very few people with the chemical and the material skills. Currently, the needs are obviously totally different, and the companies are in trouble both to reskill internal resources and to recruit the right ones from the market. And the market is not offering today what the company needs. That's a very big issue. And in this context, the more you were strong, robust, and vertically structured on the old skills, the more difficult it will be to overcome this transformation, finding a new balance. Obviously, the European companies are facing with this kind of transformation with more troubles and going slower than some other companies. For example, in China, where the automotive culture has less and less legacy. And the result of the scenario described above can be represented by an exponential growing R&D investment by the OEMs that want to remain competitive in the sector. On the other hand, as we mentioned before, the supply chain that is supported by a lot of companies, and they are SMEs in particular, that have difficulty investing at the same time for the digital transformation transition and for the production processes and in applied research and technology. And in this way, transfer activity are necessary to bring the new ones to the market. In a context that we hope to define as post-COVID sooner or later, the topic we have to face with is how to recover competitiveness with respect to China and the US that are becoming the real actors of technological development. As usual, when you are in front of a breakthrough, sometimes you have to restart from the beginning. And China and the US, but I think China is in this time stronger than us in order to use this kind of moment. To regain competitiveness, it is necessary at the same time to support basic research, technology transfer, and training. And with Horizon 2020, Europe has well-supported basic research and pre-competitive projects, but today it must accelerate in terms of technology transfer. In between the basic research, pre-competitive project, and the direct support to the company on their R&D activities, what I call tangible production chain, let me say, we have to create support and develop on an intangible production chain. What is the intangible production chain? It is the preparation of the new skills, that means new engineers, to be ready to bring to the company in their product development departments, the competencies able to integrate the new technologies in the new products. But the training of new engineers can be done only let them to work on concrete proof of concept projects, creating specific subjects, specific environments to allow something like that. The reference in terms of TRL is 6, 7, 8. Those subjects has to work in this kind of range of TRL. We have to support the reskilling and upskilling of the worker. We have to enable structural investment for test before invest, a real accelerator of technology transfer. Do all this quickly and this is the key word, and with light procedures for industries, less bureaucracy, for example, or rather with agile processes to exploit the potential of digitalization. It becomes important to guarantee Europe companies to support for technological innovation, both in transversal terms, such as the competence centers recently created for the enabling technology of Industry 4.0, and by enabling the technology transfer phase for vertical development of industrial sectors, which will therefore support the innovation of current production chain or will allow the creation of the new ones. This will be possible through the establishment of new centers for vertical technology transfer for the so-called intangible production chain. Developing the intangible production chains to ensure complete technological transfer becomes crucial for many industrial sectors, relevant to the country in terms of business and impact on employment, but in particular for those such as mobility that are in the middle of a real technological revolution. So be quick, be quicker and quicker and quicker. That's my starting point.
Okay. Thank you a lot, Roberto. So many inputs from your side too. So we start to now to find a way to continue the discussion. I was surprised because when we ask you about what is your statement, your words for the future, we received from Peter United Europe, from you concreteness. I would say probably you have merged in a new different words now is acceleration and speed. That are the two, or let's say the same words that seems to come from your contribution. So coming back again, let me jump about some my note. I would like to come back to this point of speed, acceleration, and I will speak about the impact now. So this is quite soon in my mind the first word that I can bring to the discussion. So Peter, impact has been an argument that has been addressed since many different framework programs. It's not a novelty. Now we speak about mission as a way to improve impact, but impact has been on one of the first elements on the top of the agenda of Commission since many years. Now, can you just give you a shorter contribution in order to have a discussion? But what do you expect from Horizon Europe different in terms of impact? Why we should have a more impact-oriented program in Horizon Europe? What is our expectation from this point of view in the new program?
Yeah, thanks, Marco. I think the why is quite clear. We see it with the pandemic, we see it with the climate emergency, we see it with the food challenges, we see it with biodiversity, we see it in industry. It is quite clear that we have to be quick on the market. Second, we have an issue with technology diffusion, and Roberto mentioned it, technology transfer, technology diffusion. We have a kind of phenomenon that the winner takes it all. The best companies are able to invest in more and more and be faster, but the technologies developed are not diffused sufficiently. And this is something also actually we learned from the crisis, that we need to share more. We have created a platform for COVID-related research, and I'm very happy that quite a number of our projects have opened up and shared their results, because we can only win that together in such an emergency like the current pandemic. So how to achieve the impact? You mentioned missions. That's only one part. It's a new instrument of Horizon Europe in key areas of societal relevance, be it clean oceans, smart cities, or climate adaptation. But the impact is for all parts of Horizon, and maybe it's a bit too technical, but you mentioned it was always before the ambition to achieve impact, of course. But in the process now, when we formulate the work program, what we call the investment topics, we will start with the expected impact. And actually, we have identified that we need to be a bit more differentiating between the spheres of interest, of influence, and of control. So the sphere of interest and influence would be climate neutrality. And you can also see that for a given field. So higher energy efficiency in energy-intensive sectors of our economy. But the sphere of control, and that would be the impact from the concrete project, is a new technology, a new process, a new business model which allows to achieve a very specifically set target.
Okay, I was looking to some of the first questions that are coming. Thanks a lot again, quite clear. Roberto, same point from you. Again, impact. You start to mention, as an engineer, you need the number in order to have a clear reasoning. How you intend to measure? So from an industrial point of view, how you evaluate the efforts that the Commission is doing in having a more impact-oriented program? What is your expectation from that? What will be your index to evaluate that the new program will be really oriented to, a program oriented to impact?
Yeah, before trying to invent some index, let me go back to the what I introduced before as the intangible product chain creation. Because to me, this is very key. Because in the past, in order to avoid application of structures and roles compared to what is already present in the territory, a lot of attempts have been made to push on the so-called synergies, collaboration, and project shared between all the mobility actors active in the territory, network between industrial players and services, universities, research center, local authorities, and so on. I try to work in this kind of environment in the last 3 or 4 years in Italy. But this approach had to face with the lack of an organization that even from an operational point of view, a concrete point of view, was able to produce a result in a time frame consistent with the needs. Normally, some results were obtained by this kind of network way to work, let me say, but sometimes those results have been inconsistent with the timing, with the time frame that my company and generally speaking the industry needs the results in order to avoid to lose competitiveness. And taking in account this experience, the creation of subjects just dedicated and focused on filling the gap between the world of research and education typical of the university and the industrial world should be considered key, in my opinion. The subjects should be developed with the operational structures obviously near and close to the current production chains by exploiting the assets already active in the area at the university and applied research center. It is necessary to plan multi-sector investment that look at the social impact by this kind of new subjects. I have in mind, and I'm sorry for that, but I had in my past some experience in Germany. I have in mind the Fraunhofer institutes that are working, in my opinion, in a very good way, filling the gap between the basic research and the industry. So what's about the indicators? Probably we need a workshop dedicated on this kind of topic. But why don't consider, for instance, the number of proof of concept developed by all the subjects? And in the medium term, for instance, the number of proof of concepts with a concrete market evaluation and the acceptance of the final customer and system stakeholders, not only in the sector, but generally speaking, in the market. I would like to challenge us in order to, let me say, ask to others, and others means in this kind of word, the market, to give us a sort of indicators about the efficiency of our job.
Okay, thanks, Roberto. And now, Peter, please.
Marco, could I comment?
Sure.
Yeah, because I think Roberto said something very important about the intangible production lines and production chains, and that is something which we also experience from the collaborative research we generate with EU funding. These networks, which go much longer than the project itself. It's actually the beginning, in many cases, of long-term cooperation between many partners across disciplines. And that's a real added value and adds to this element Roberto raised. And I just wanted to mention that this is something we share, which is important, exactly like the test before invest. And it's not, very importantly, the digital innovation hubs, but more generally, testing infrastructures for technology, whether it's Fraunhofer or TNO or university or from Finland, VTT, with very good infrastructures. We invest, part of our funding goes into the development of these infrastructures. And very recently, as part of the renewed European research area policy, we announced that we would work on these technology infrastructures, a European dimension, a strategy for allowing testing before investing and then accelerating through that the market uptake and the technology diffusion.
Thanks. I appreciate a lot this exchange from you, between you. It's fine, please. I don't need to speak. If you want to have a sort of direct dialogue, it's welcome anytime. I have, in any case, another provocative question, maybe in short times, but I would like to understand your feeling about that. You, Peter, already mentioned that this program, Horizon Europe, has already in a very, very advanced state now, following a long, let's say, EU co-creation activity. Certainly this co-creation is quite nice, and we know very well, I know very well also for many years of experience with your directorate, when you speak about the R&I community, so your direct reference community. But you know Horizon Europe is much more. This attempt to have a direct dialogue with citizens becomes a sort of continuous sounds on the bottom of Horizon Europe. Now the question is quite simple, and I would like to address the same question to both of you. But we are speaking about industry. We are speaking about in a part of the program where there is a lot of, let's say, hard science, final solution, ITRL. How can bring this voice of the civil society? Is there room or not? A very short statement from both of you, please.
Roberto first?
No, Peter, please.
Okay, thanks. Yes, there is room for society to engage. And one big new possibility is missions. But the missions I mentioned, the big topics where we have a real program of engaging beyond the classical community, But it's much more than that. We're talking about social innovation. We talk about celebrating innovation, prizes. We have social innovation prize, but the innovation capital award, the inducement prizes. This is a big possibility to engage with a wider community, the wider society. Citizen science is very important, but we even are doing more. In my department, we are currently launching societal solutions platform. It's still at the very beginning, but the idea is really related to the Green Deal, starting with a specific element or dimension on the climate neutrality, to create a platform where citizens, local communities have a way to connect with their individual needs. Innovation is always needs driven, to results from previous and ongoing projects funded by us. So this is just one other example of the many opportunities for a broader engagement in science. And if I can just add a personal comment, Horizon EU research is not just relevant for universities, research and technology organizations, and industry. The current pandemic has shown how important science is for the society at large, how important it is to base policies on scientific evidence. And actually, we've seen a shift in awareness, a shift also in expectations from society, which is a very, very important element.
Yeah, sorry. I would like to add something on that. I think that we have to try to push on the young people, first of all. And I think that we have to explain, first of all, what is behind a new idea or a new technology evolution. So my personal experience, I have two sons and one daughter. The oldest is 24 and the youngest is 16. With the kind of education they got till now from high schools and university. I don't think that anybody gave them any piece of information about the steps that a new idea needs to become a market product. Probably they think a shorter time to market than the real one. And this is according to the speeding up feeling they get every day from their virtual life. Why don't introduce in the high schools a course to explain to the guys the process of an idea? Why don't introduce the actors of the journey? Basic research, universities, the role of applied research center like Fraunhofer, and the final role of the industry. Why don't explain who is spending money during each phase? Public support, private support, and so on. We could start with seminars by external contributors, and personally, if needed, I'm really ready to support because I think this is key to support our institution and our future as well. So I think that this could be done because I feel around me in the real life, let me say, not so enough knowledge about this kind of mechanism, this kind of steps that normally an idea needs to start from a virtual idea to become a real product in the market.
Clear point. I don't know if there is some comment, but in any case, you stress. Peter, is there something for you?
Yeah, the young generation, I think that's a very important point. I agree. Actually, not only has the young generation these Fridays for Future actually set the policy ambition, changed the policy ambition, we have very positive experience in engaging with the younger generation. We had last month, and I'm sure you've seen that, the European Research and Innovation Days. And one of the sessions was about sustainable chemistry. Sustainable and safe by design, and we included there two representatives from the younger generation, and it was so clear that they are ready to engage, they're ready to commit, they have fantastic ideas, they have their own networks. The more we can do that, the better. Not only in relation to science, but also in relation to entrepreneurship, where our European Innovation Council can certainly help with all the experience they have now with coaching entrepreneurs, those funded in the startup phase.
Yeah, I'm quite happy if we could also give them an idea and let me say a training about the process that you need. Because for sure everybody are very interested in every kind of topics that are, for instance, in Horizon Europe plan of investment and so on, Green Deal, connectivity, autonomous driving, new materials, and so on and so on. What I'm thinking is to give to the people, give to the young people, but generally speaking to the people, let me say, acknowledgement about the process that are behind a development of an idea. Otherwise, my feeling is that everybody are forced by this kind of world to simplify too much the getting of the results. And getting a concrete and measurable results is not so easy. So you have to apply a process. You have to study, then you have to test, then you have to create a business plan, then you have to produce something with the right money. So it's not only having an idea and the day after you can sell the idea on the market. And this kind of acknowledgement, I don't feel this kind of acknowledgement in the majority of the people that I met with.
Thank you, Roberto. You are run quite well alone. I'm lost because I have no role, but please, I have a couple of questions before to go to the hand because I'm curious to listen to your answer. But just a comment to Peter. I fully agree with you. I know what was done during this session on sustainable chemistry, and I fully support that. And I remind you that we try to do something similar. This conference here for us is a conference built on the young. We have this session, Report from Future, that is our collaboration with the staff from the groups of selected youngs that will help you to explain outside what we are doing here. Because again, we know each other quite well and we can understand each other, but it's not so easy to transfer this message outside this kind of building. But I have two questions, and the time is running. I would like to short answer from you, a little provocative, if you allow me. And there are 2 points. First is partnership. You both, Peter, because as Director of Prosperity, that was late before, Industrial Technologies, you are managed Directorate where partnerships, in particular co-programmed partnerships, or the contractual PPP was born. And Roberto, CRF was so active in many different of these area of partnerships. A long discussion about revitalization, transformation, optimization of partnerships. A big exercise as launched. Peter, there was a need to do that, and if there was a need, for your point of view, certainly yes. why there was these needs. And to Roberto, the question will be, there was the need to do this reshuffle of the partnership that works quite well according to the industrial point of view. So Peter, the floor to you. Why?
Yeah, because we have had reached a level of accumulation of initiatives and partnerships which made the system very complex. And complexity is never good for impact. And that was the reason why we did it. And in the strategic plan I've mentioned, we have now identified the areas for partnership, and you will see quite a good also level of continuity of the areas. But the ambition, also the composition of this partnership is changing. And my experience, my personal experience with these partnerships is very, very positive. But something we are changing now, and I think this is a big improvement, a bit more inter-partnership cooperation and more involvement, engagement of the civil society and the young generation. As we just discussed.
You have a comment about partnerships from your point of view, really. Short, because I have another question.
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, we got a lot of interesting results with the partnership we had during the last year. But as we mentioned before, this is for me the end of considering the partnership only using your sector. So the partnership inside your sector is probably death for the future. We have to consider partnership that can lead and make a direct and tangible contribution to European challenging. For instance, for example, we are not no longer talking about the car industry or road transportation or connected and autonomous vehicle or communication system, but we have to talk about the intersectoral partnership for multimodal mobility with zero emission and zero accidents in general. Only partnership where all the stakeholders help to define and share comprehensive roadmaps directly linked to the challenge that Europe has defined. We have to enlarge and to mix and to shuffle, let me say, this kind of partnership. Then I think that we could do a very interesting progression in that direction.
It's a clear message, interesting point to be discussed in the future. But this is part of the evolution, I think, because Peter was said by Peter. The idea is to transform current partnerships or past partnerships in partnerships much more relevant to tackle the future, and that is in line with your comment. Yeah. They are too open. Even Peter spoke about relations between partnership that was silos before. Perfect, crystal clear. One point about sorry, I don't want to speak about materials. Don't be upset, Peter. But technologies. In prosperity was the previous industrial technologies. We start the Horizon 2020 to discuss about key enabling technology rules, and we discussed a lot for years. And again, now we are discussing about solutions. That's fine. Politically speaking, it's quite clear and nothing to say. But to reach such solutions, we need technologies in any kind of technology, from manufacturing, from materials, from macroelectronics, whatever technology in the sense of key enabling technologies. Can you have a comment from you in this new, or let me say, in the future program, how technology will be managed? Because cannot disappear. And again, for Roberto, you did a lot of activity in the area of technologies in the past. How do you approach this kind of problems? How to deal with technologies in the frame of the future Horizon Europe? So where will be technologies, if will be? Can I have a just show sentence about that?
very shortly, because my answer is quite easy. It is in the specific program where we specify what we call intervention areas, and there you have the reference to to the different technologies, and we have a specific intervention area on future key enabling technologies, the things we don't know yet exactly how to call them. Like a decade ago, nano became a technology in itself. So this is how we will deal with it, and they should be cross purpose, and this is also in line with the impact relevance and the impact orientation of our topics.
Clear. Roberto, do you want to add something?
Yes, very shortly, also from my side. So I think that the technology world is enough ahead comparing with the industry today. This means that we have to create proof of concept, new ideas, new products as again a proof of concept that can integrate the technologies that are already ready, let me say, in a pre-program or a pre-application phase. So this means that we have to multiply, we have to add a lot of activities in the integration area, and integration means basically proof of concepts projects that could give us, let me say, a sort of robustness that we need in order to do another step, that is the application, their final application to a real product coming on the market. So we need to work much more in the intermediate phase, in the intermediate range of TRL, in order to make more robust and make more integrated the technologies that we already have in our portfolio to be applied.
Clear again. Thanks. We are approaching the end. Probably 4 minutes. Just one sentence. I don't want to say yes or no, but something like that. Madame von der Leyen launched the Green Deal. You know, everybody. And again, as a citizen, let's say, do you believe that we are facing as European really the chance to change our approach to the future in a sustainable economy, in a real way to be rich but to save our world? In that sense, is really for Europe a challenge to prove to the rest of the world that there exists a different way to remain on top but without destroying this world? Peter and Roberto, and after that we are going to close.
Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. And you have seen that we have not deviated from this Green Deal and climate neutrality ambition during the pandemic. The Recovery and Resilience Fund and programs now, the 750 billions from the EU budget, they are oriented towards the Green Deal, towards this transition. So for me, it's absolutely confirmed and not a question. The question is, will that be the end of our worries? And the answer is unfortunately not. We will discover probably new problems on our way, and we'll have to face, that is part of our condition as mankind. We will create new problems and have to find solutions for that. So that's why for me it's important that in the entire process we keep the well-being of the individual, of the person, together with the collective needs in mind.
I'm confirming basically what Peter said. Electrification, hydrogen, fuel cell, new materials for save weight coming from the new architecture that are obviously a little bit more weight than before. I think that this could be a very important chance for the companies to sustain their business and at the same time to create new production chain. Speaking about hydrogen, for instance, I think that we could see something very interesting in the next future. So I believe in it. No one has ever more attention to the environmental, social, and economic problems than Europe. I'm very proud to be a European guy. I think that our industry is the most capable with a systemic and integrated approach to find the best trade-off, let me say, and to ensure sustainability at the 3 and 60 degrees. So Europe has shown this in the past in the ability to use the raw materials, the development of renewable energy. I think that Europe probably, this is my thinking, is the only place in the world that could win this kind of challenge.
Thanks a lot. All of us are convinced about that, and that is already one first step. So, thanks a lot, but I have a last question, Peter. Is a sunny day in Brussels or is a running day? You pass from the shadow to the light 10 times. So I was quite curious about the weather in Brussels today. But okay, thanks.
It's nice. It's okay. There are some clouds. Now it's getting darker.
Yeah, exactly. You was in the shadow and the light very different times during this conversation. Thanks a lot, Peter. Thanks a lot, Roberto. And I'm going to close now. I thank you again for your availability to participate to this session of the APRE Conference 2020. Thanks a lot. Bye. Arrivederci.
Thank you. Thank you, Marco.
Everybody. Thank you.